Thanks for joining us on 6 Plus. I'm Bailey Bates. Here's what's in the news now. After almost a decade, a cold case has been closed in Coryell County. 21-year-old Cole Younger Middleton was reported missing in Gatesville back in 2015. His remains were found in 2022, and it took forensics over 2 years to confirm the remains were in fact Middleton's. 6 News anchor Adrian Alexander sat down with law enforcement in Coryell County to learn what led up to this discovery.
We don't know.
It's a case that has stumped investigators for several years.
It may be a mystery forever.
Cole Younger Middleton was 21 years old when he disappeared from a local hotel back in 2015. His mother reported him missing, but over the years,
It eventually became a cold case.
questions loomed about where he could be and what may have happened to him.
So it was, a case that we came back to every once in a while, but, we really did not hear of anybody having any contact with Cole after the beginning of August of the year that he disappeared.
But in 2022, there was a break in the case.
The rancher was out on his property, and then apparently there were hogs around, so he's kind of watching them, but he walked up on the skeletal, I think a piece of a bone.
Deputies weren't sure if the skeletal bones they found belonged to Middleton, so they sent the remains to a lab, and these things take time.
It's not like we send something up there and that's the only job they got. They're pretty much packed, and it's trying to get in there, and then we get the results when we can.
Forensics received Middleton's DNA sample from his mother, and those samples matched.
The amount of time that's passed, I mean, everybody else is going to kind of forget about it, but the family's always going to remember.
An autopsy, of the bones could give us an idea, but because of the way the bones were scattered, we may not ever really have an idea of what his true cause of death was.
That was Adriana Alexander reporting for us tonight. Police tell 6 News they likely would not have been able to close this case if it wasn't for the help of receiving that call from a person in the community. They encourage everyone to contact police if they ever encounter something out of the norm. Meanwhile, powerful winds during Monday's storms tore apart a flea market in Belton. 6 News reporter Cindy Deshawn spoke with business owners who are in the process of rebuilding.
I'm just trusting God to restore everything, and I'm still in shock. This is my livelihood.
David Lambert owns this shop.
Known as Dave's, been open here since 2013.
It was turned upside down from strong winds. All his hard work ripped apart in a matter of minutes.
I saw total devastation. I saw a lot of my history and photos that are on the back wall destroyed by the water and the wind.
Lucio Norris also owns a store in the Bell County Flea Market.
And then when I came in, I said, oh man, the whole back was ripped off.
In the middle of everyone's loss, people are staying strong and coming together to get back on their feet.
For a lot of these guys out here, this is their source of income. So the faster we can get it back, up and running, the faster they can get, put food on the table for their families and whatnot.
And while David says he lost about $100,000, he still finds a glimmer of hope. A sign reading Jesus that stayed standing in it all.
When I first moved in, the first thing I did was put Jesus up on there by the light, because he is the light. So everyone from the road could see that we uplift Jesus here. And the wind left Jesus standing. The wind obeyed his name, a name above all names. But I just have all my faith in the Lord Jesus Christ to set everything straight and fix it all up for me.
That was Cindy Deshawn sending that strong message from local business owners. They say that they hope to get everything restored within a couple of weeks. Over in Lampasas, after social media posts were made about a false potential school threat, Lampasas ISD and the city's police department immediately looked into it. Now both have confirmed that there were any active threats and just rumors on social media. The district has several communication channels to keep families informed and safe. Superintendent Shane Rasco said every concern that comes to their attention is thoroughly investigated, but he also said some parents turn to social media first instead of contacting the school directly.
If you're a parent and you're sitting at home and the only thing you get your news from is Facebook, then you need to contact the school directly, because get the facts before you put something on social media that's not true. because it hurts kids, and that's when we become involved. So that nonsense needs to stop.
Rasco wants parents to focus on building strong relationships with their children and school staff The district also said they will always prioritize their students' safety first. Anyone with school safety concerns are encouraged to contact their local school's office directly. And more education news, the Texas School Board of Education has voted to approve curriculum allowing public schools to teach the Bible as a part of English class. After hours of testimony, the board voted 8-7 to approve the new curriculum. The Texas Education Agency proposed the Bluebonnet learning materials back in September. They incorporate Bible stories into English and language art lessons for public elementary schools. Critics of the materials say the lessons favor Christianity above other religions. However, supporters of the plan say the Bible is a constitutionally protected text. Students have the right to study.
Government cannot violate religious liberty by establishing a religion of secularism.
The systemic issues of incorporating Bible stories into the reading and language arts curriculum in ways that are neither age nor subject matter appropriate remain.
The board will vote again to confirm the approval. If that passes, public schools won't be required to teach Bluebonnet lessons, but the state will pay schools for each student that they do teach the lessons to. A Houston area mom was brought back to life by her doctors after she died while giving birth to triplets. The last thing she remembered when she woke up was going to the movies the weekend before. Reporter Amanda Henderson talked to her and learned how this experience has impacted her life.
With 4 kids under the age of 5, it's fair to say life is a bit of organized chaos for Marissa and Dylan Christie. Here, together, Marissa says is her favorite place to be.
But I try to remind myself in those hard moments, I'm like, I almost missed all of it. So it kind of puts it in perspective.
After giving birth to the couple's triplet girls in late August, Marissa flatlined at multiple points in a 45-minute time span. Her husband Dylan explaining the moment. Everything took a sharp turn.
It was the toughest moment of my life. Going from, we just had the most beautiful experience and seeing our baby girls for the first time to, oh my gosh, my wife they're doing CPR on her.
Dr. Amber Samuel is Marissa's maternal fetal medicine physician. She says the mom of 4 survived an extremely rare post-birth complication called amniotic fluid embolism.
Some exposure that causes the mom's body to react like a really bad allergic reaction.
In Marissa's case, it led her husband to make the call for her to get a life-saving hysterectomy. When she woke up, she had no knowledge of giving birth.
My family took lots of photos and videos of me when I was in the hospital, which helped a lot to be able to kind of have reality hit.
A reality that included relearning how to walk and celebrating the girls graduating from the NICU.
They were very sneaky. They didn't tell us that they would have everybody in the hallway.
Here you see both Marissa's ICU nurses and the girls' NICU nurses celebrating how far they've all come amidst the chaos.
I don't think I would be alive if I had not been at that hospital.
That was Amanda Henderson reporting. According to Christie's fetal medicine physician, the complication with her birth only happens to about 1 in 13,000 women. Up next, Chief Meteorologist Matt Farrell has your Weather 101. Thanks for watching. In the news, I'm Bailey Bates.
Hello everyone and welcome to another installment of Weather Impact 101. Today we're going to be talking about something that we don't talk about enough on air. We're talking about wind. It can have a major impact on our weather, including whether or not we're going to be warm or cold, in terms of humidity and all these other factors. So wind is very important to our weather, and today we're just going to talk very quickly about how it forms and where it comes from. In order to do that, we're going to start off with just a little bit of an explainer. So I have here a balloon. Okay, so in its current state, this balloon is not very big, but the air pressure inside of the balloon is the same as the air pressure outside. Now, with a balloon, obviously, this would not do well at parties, so of course we go ahead and inflate it. And so what I've done is I have created a self-contained high-pressure system. So how is this related to our atmosphere? Well, our atmosphere is constantly trying to find what we call equilibrium. That basically means all things want to be equal. So when we have high pressure and low pressure, they try to even each other out. It doesn't always work with our atmosphere, and we'll talk about why here in just a little bit. But basically, you saw how big the balloon was before, and now you can see how big it is now. What's happening is all the air inside is taking up, well, a little more space than what we really need to see. You saw how big the balloon was to begin with. So this is high pressure on the inside and a relatively lower pressure outside in the atmosphere. So again, what's going to happen is if I release the valve, it is going to try and find equilibrium. Air will flow from high pressure back into the atmosphere and equalize the pressure inside the balloon. No more high pressure. Now we're back to atmospheric pressure inside the balloon. So that's just one example of how wind works. Let's take a look at another example real quick. Well, the second example we're going to look at today deals with another household item. That's right, we're going to talk about soda cans. Soda cans are kept in a state of high pressure. That's the gas inside. That's what kind of fizzes whenever we open the can. And like we mentioned a little bit ago, air is always trying to find what we call equilibrium or balance. So if you have standard air pressure outside and you've got relatively high pressure inside the can, of course, what's going to happen when you pop the tab, right? That air is going to come out, and that does form a sort of wind, that fizz coming out of the can. So what happens is, again, once you open the can, you have opened up this environment, and we're going to try and find equilibrium. We're going to try and make the pressure outside the same as the pressure inside, and to a degree, that does happen. Sometimes it happens too much, and our sodas get a little bit flat. But again, that's what's supposed to happen. We're trying to reach that equilibrium. Once you do, once we get the two pressures the same, you see the kind of fizz stops coming out of the can, and we have reached that state of equilibrium. Now, next we're going to talk about what happens with a can that has been shaken. So what happens when you shake a soda can? Some of that gas comes out of the soda and starts to build up inside the can and creates higher pressure on the inside. So what happens if you've ever opened a soda that's been shaken up a little bit? What happens, right? It kind of gets all over you because it comes out quickly. It comes out very quick, and it comes out with a massive amount of fizz and soda as well. So the greater the pressure inside, the greater the force of that wind coming out of the can, again, trying to seek out that state of equilibrium. And I know what you're thinking, what do balloons and soda cans have anything to do with our atmosphere? Well, it's the exact same situation. This is how wind forms. You've heard us talk on air likely a lot about high pressure systems and low pressure systems, especially low pressure systems, because that's typically what brings us showers and thunderstorms. But just like with the soda cans, just like with the balloons, our atmosphere is trying to seek that state of equilibrium, that state of balance. We're trying to take the high pressure, give some of that air to the low pressure to kind of make things balance out. And like I said, to a degree it happens, but really we're always going to have high pressure and low pressure systems on Earth. So again, air pressure is always trying to reach that state of equilibrium. And again, that's true on a global scale and on a scale just the size of our country. What causes fast versus slow winds? Well, slower winds occur when we have kind of a weak high pressure system and there's a weak low pressure system. So those are pretty close together in terms of what the pressure is. So you're not going to get a huge force. It's like the normal soda can, right? Well, what happens when you take that high pressure? You increase the high pressure and you decrease the low pressure. Well, yeah, you figured it out. That wind's going to go even faster, just like with the shaken up soda can, how it gets all over you. That's what happens with our winds when you have a strong high pressure system and a strong low pressure system. A lot of our cold fronts that we get during the spring and then during the fall times, what happens? Those winds behind the front come in very forceful. We're talking 20 to 30 mile per hour wind gusts possible when we get these cold fronts that come through in the fall and the winter. So one other thing that I do want to talk about is, why does wind never just travel in a straight line? When we show you our maps, there's always a little bit of a curvature to it, right? Well, of course, it can't be just as simple as wind flowing from high pressure to low pressure. That would be too simple. We live on a rotating globe, of course. So what happens is, because of that rotation, if you ever turned your car steering wheel too fast, what happens? You kind of get flung to one side, right? Well, the same thing. As air is flowing from high pressure to low pressure, we have something called Coriolis force. That is basically, it's kind of an inferred force. It's not a real force. What's happening is that wind is getting deflected to the right because we are spinning about our axis. So what ends up happening is, as the high pressure tries to flow to low pressure, it gets deflected to the right. What happens is you end up getting these clockwise motions around high pressure systems, and you end up getting these counterclockwise situations around low pressure. So that's why our maps always kind of look cyclonic. That's why hurricanes are the shape that they are. That's why whenever we get a low pressure pressure system moving across the continental United States. That's why it has that cyclonic motion to it, and that is also why when we get cold fronts, the air comes in from the north and generally sweeps back off to the southeast. So that's a little bit about why wind flows in the direction it flows. But let's talk again about the force of the wind. Strong high pressure, strong low pressure, you're going to get a fast wind. Weak high pressure, weak low pressure, you're going to get a slower wind. But what does it really take to move objects around? Well, it just so happens we have an equation for that. Now, if you don't want to do the math on your own, I'm going to go through some of these common objects with you, but just know that if you wanted to know how much force, how much wind, what the miles per hour would have to be of the wind to move an object, there is an equation for you. It is the square root of 195, that's a constant, that doesn't change, times the weight of the object divided by the area of the object. But again, if you don't want to do the math at home, let's just talk about some common objects. Let's talk about a maple leaf. I know, it's not Canada. We have maple trees, though, in the United States. So let's take a maple leaf. Weighs 2 1,000ths of a pound, and it's only 0.04 square feet in terms of area. So it doesn't take a whole lot of wind to move a maple leaf. It takes about a 3-mile-an-hour wind. Now let's talk about your trash can, because we know here in Texas, when we get a cold front that comes through, that trash can end up in somebody else's yard real easy. So trash cans weigh on average about 37 pounds, and they cover about 9.1 square feet in area. So it's going to take a little more wind, about 28 miles per hour. So when we say, hey, gusts are going to be 25 to 30 miles per hour today, yes, that can move your trash can into the neighbor's yard. So just keep that in mind. Now let's talk about a person. Now the average person, if you average it all out, is about 175 pounds. And the area of a human, again, this is going to be just from the front. We're not talking about volume. We're not talking all the way around. Just your front profile is about 7.7 square feet on average. So it's going to take a pretty significant wind to move you around. And you've heard me say this. When we get these thunderstorms that come through, the outflow winds of about 60 miles per hour, I've said it on air a number of times. That'll move you around if you're not ready for it. Yeah, 67 miles per hour. That's what it takes to move a human being. And what about a car? Now, you would think it would be a lot more than a human. You would not necessarily be correct. Let's take a look here. For cars, really, it only takes about 90 mile per hour winds. So keep that in mind. When we talk about these very strong spring and fall thunderstorms that have these strong straight line winds, I've always said, that'll move you around a little bit on the road. And again, once they get up to 90 miles per hour, it absolutely can. Well, did you know that the fastest wind gust ever recorded was on Barrow Island in Australia, came in at 253 miles per hour. Now, we don't usually deal with that here in central Texas, of course, but we do get some pretty strong wind gusts. In fact, some of the storms we've had this year have put out straight line winds of up to 60, 70, even 80 miles per hour. So definitely a damaging force to be reckoned with. Of course, we'll talk more about thunderstorm related winds in an upcoming Weather Impact 101. But for now, that'll do it for this installment. Once again, I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Farrell for 6 News. Until next time.